we can yield ourselves to God's will through the new nature. A little girl fell out of bed one night and began to cry. Her mother rushed into her bedroom, picked her up, put her back in bed, and asked her, "Honey, why did you fall out of bed?" She said, "I think I stayed too close to the place where I got in." And that's the reason a great many of us fall, my friend, is because we are actually yielding ourselves to the old nature. We're following the dictation of our old sin. That is what gets us into trouble. Steve Carrington developed Reformers Unanimous, and he used to talk about that it was important to get many, 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 many steps away from your addiction or your sin. And and he would talk about how that he was in a store one day and he picked something up off the shelf. And when he got to the cash register, he decided he wasn't going to buy it. And so he was going to set it there, there on the shelves as you're waiting in line to check out. And he said, "No, I can't do that." And he took it back and put it back on the shelf. And he said that was the moment he realized he was many, 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 many steps away from his sin of drug addiction. Is whenever he was uh, worried about somebody else having to take that item back to and put it back on the shelf for him, and so he did it himself. And so that is what it's talking about here. Although we will not get rid of that old nature in this life, we are told now, yield yourself unto God. Yet as ye yield yourself to do sin, you are to yield yourself unto God, as though that those that are alive from the dead. You're now alive in Christ. You have new nature. You've been born again, and I use this example all the time. It's probably better to use this example rather than calling out who I was going to call out, but I recommend people go to rehab all the time. They choose not to go to rehab. They want to go to sober living, or they want to we'll take in more meetings. We'll do this or that, rather than yielding. If you are truly yielding, step three. If you really need don't need rehab, you'll yield and go to rehab. Because again, step three is consciously choose to turn my life and will over to Christ's care and control. I yield to I submit to Christ, uh, and so I see it time and time again. They don't want to surrender all, uh, give it all up, and go to rehab. Whether the sad thing is they probably are yielding by going to rehab, and they're ready maybe for the next phase. But anyway, and your members as instruments of righteousness unto God. Deal with that which is special and particular. What is your real problem, friend? I know what mine is. What about yours? Whatever that special thing is, yield to God. A bad temper, whenever you get on 75, everybody's got a bad temper, right? Well, take that to him and talk to him about it. What about a gossipy tongue? A dear lady who attended a tongues meeting was asked if she wanted to speak in tongues. She exclaimed, "Oh my, no! I'd like to lose about 40 feet of the one I have now." If your tongue is a problem, yield it to God. And by the way, in this day in which we are living, what about immorality? Sex is the big subject of the hour. My, everybody's getting in on the act today. Is is that your sin? Well, you're to yield to God, your members, an instrument of righteousness unto God. And don't tell me you can't do it. You can do it through